Hello, League City. I am here with, let me introduce these four gentlemen. Ryan Edgehill, who is our Emergency Management Coordinator. Of course, recognized Mayor Nick Long. I'm Sarah Osborne. And then we have City Manager John Baumgartner. We're going to talk about Tropical Storm Beryl, which will soon be most likely a hurricane. Mayor Long, tell us what the city is doing to prepare and what we're expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. So city crews have been out for the last couple days addressing the ditches, kind of tying down any kind of loose ends from now. And really, I think what we could do as citizens now is there's not going to be trash pickup tomorrow, obviously. Let's make sure we get all that loose debris picked up in your neighborhood, because that's really what could make the biggest impact, locally for you. If that trash or other debris blows into the storm drains, it's going to back up the storm drain in your neighborhood and really cause, your own neighborhood to flood. So I think, make sure you get that stuff inside. If you see your neighbor's trash, be a good neighbor, get them to pick that up or pick it up for them. And
any yard clippings, if you spent the weekend working on your yard, cutting trees, doing any of that, let's pick that up.
Yeah, let's get that secured.
So, Ryan, tell us what the latest is on the storm. We just had a briefing.
We just had a briefing with the National Weather Service. Not a lot of changes from what we discussed earlier today. One notable thing would be a slight increase in that storm surge. So we had mentioned Alberto last month and kind of what we saw there, that this could bring maybe possibly another foot on top of that. Well, now it looks like maybe another foot on top of that. So maybe a couple of feet in addition to what we saw.
So how many inches are we talking
month.
about here?
So that in terms of storm surge, that's
Okay.
pushing up to maybe 5 feet
Okay.
up into the creek. In terms of rainfall, anywhere from 5 to 10 inches is still a pretty reasonable forecast. But again, the big caveat there is that any training bands could dump a lot more than that. And we will likely get most of that rain in a pretty narrow window of time. For sure that's going to overwhelm some of the drainage, and we will very likely see street flooding with this event. And then, like we said earlier, remember, the streets are designed to convey that flood water. So they're doing their job to get the water away from your home and back into, ultimately into the Gulf. Now, the other issue there, of course, is that with the surge and the high tide, that water didn't have a whole lot of places to go. And so there may be a delay. It may take quite a bit longer than it normally would to get that water out of the neighborhoods and, again, draining away.
Just another reason why you should not be out at all if you don't have to be driving around, because we know just 10 inches, just a foot of water can easily
move a car. And most injuries and even deaths that happen as a result of these storms happen because people are out in water, not in their homes. So the safest place to be, again, is in your home, not out driving. So hunker down, find a place to be, put on some good movies, make popcorn, relax. And if you don't have to go anywhere tomorrow, don't travel. And if you do have to get out, never drive through flooded streets.
Absolutely. You have no idea what's underneath the water, and so it's very, very important that you never drive on a flooded street. So, John, we have taken some precautions as a city as far as some closures. Today being Sunday, we've already closed the library and parks. What are we doing on Monday?
So on Monday, we're going to assess first thing in the morning, depending on how bad the winds and rains are, but we will keep city facilities closed until 12 noon. Likely all day. If we get the predicted rain and we get the predicted wind, we will keep city facilities closed all day tomorrow. Specifically, the summer camps won't open at all tomorrow, or any of the recreation programs. But we will have folks answering the phones. We have the public works folks. They're going to be here all night. If there's an emergency and they can get out, the number's 281-554-1086. Or the City Hall line 281-554-1000. And those will be manned and operated starting at 7 p.m. tonight all through tomorrow. And that's a good alternative if it's a road issue, a blockage issue, or anything like that.
Power line down, something
down.
like that. That's the number to call. We don't want you to call 911 unless it's an emergency, medical emergency, or a fire emergency, but we do have people standing by and at those numbers should there be something else that you need to report, because we want to know about it.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I mean, the goal is to keep the streets open, certainly for emergency vehicles as well as the traveling public. Another thing to think about with the storm and with high water, if you can park your car in your driveway in lieu of the street is a good tip for us. As Ryan had suggested, many of the streets carry a lot of water during high rainfalls. I think we looked at the map earlier and we saw 2 inches in 1 hour and then 3 more inches in the next hour. So that's a lot. And again, if you live in those neighborhoods where the streets regularly fill with water, you might think about where you park your car tonight.
As an engineer, because you're an engineer by trade, explain to people why the roads flood. Because so many people, even when just yesterday we had an inch of rain in what, like 10 to 15 minutes?
In about 10 minutes. Just
In
short
about
of an
10
inch of rain.
minutes, and some streets had some minor flooding. Explain why that's actually not a bad thing when the streets flood compared to, of course, worse comes to worse.
Well, yeah, obviously, we want to keep the streets and the neighborhoods passable. But as we design storm sewer systems, they're designed, for a 100-year event, kind of a normal rainfall. And when you get 1 inch in 10 minutes, that's like 6 inches in an hour, and it just overwhelms the system, and it just doesn't drain that fast. But in theory, the streets are designed to hold water all the way up to the top of the sidewalks, and so that's what we expect. And then it, either waits and drains down or conveys it down to the lowest point and then overflows. And we've certainly changed a lot of our standards since Harvey, and so the newer neighborhoods drain a little better, and the underground storm systems carry more water. But the older neighborhoods, and we saw it during Harvey, particularly those built before 1980, before we required detention, there's a whole lot more water in the streets than there is in the newer neighborhoods. So, I think everyone knows, what neighborhoods, if their streets flood during high water, move your cars now and, save yourself some grief.
And make sure your stormwater drains are clear. Just go ahead and walk down the street and just check. Now's the time to do it when it's not pouring rain.
Yeah, when you think about the stormwater drains and, what can plug them up, and we see a lot of it, whether it's a trash bag full of leaves or whether it's just the lid to your trash can. Because if it gets down into the inlet and then jams up against a stormwater pipe, it'll take much, much longer for it to drain down, and it'll hold more water in your street during that time. So anything you can do to pick up those loose things and get them secured before the storm would be helpful for that.
John, you mentioned Harvey, if you don't mind me adding, because I've heard a lot of chatter about this. Hopefully folks can rest assured that this is not Hurricane Harvey. The saving grace here is that, yes, we will have periods of very, very heavy rainfall, and it may feel like that, but this storm keeps moving. And so by tomorrow evening, we should be clearing out, that rainfall should be moving on. So this is not something that's going to stall on top of us for days.
Thank you for that. Anything else to add before we say goodbye, Mayor Long?
No, I would say the biggest thing, don't travel if you don't need to. Probably make plans to work from home tomorrow if you can, and secure all those loose items.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. We'll have another update later. As always, stay tuned to our Facebook page for the latest information and the trusted weather source, the National Weather Service Center, Houston Galveston, which is actually based right here in League City.